Got a package in the mail. Let's see what it could be. What could it be? Looks like we got a package from Rewind Electric. Shout out to James. And look at that. We got 2 blue molded caps. Awesome. James knew I was needing some blue molded caps in the Vibrolux. It was missing 2 caps. Originally, I ended up buying one off eBay and then repurposing the death cap in the amp to kind of fill the final remaining role. But I noticed well, obviously the death cap is a 600 volt when it should be a 400 volt. So it looked too big, which was a bit of a bummer, but not the end of the world. And then the 0.1 as well that I bought off eBay just didn't really match. The font on it was a little bit different than the other original ones in the amp. So James, being the awesome guy he is, let me know, hey, I got a stash of blue moldeds. And so he sent me these. So awesome. If you guys aren't familiar with Rewind Electric, James makes some incredible pickups. I have done a few different pickup videos on this channel in the past. Nice. 10-year anniversary. Yeah, I've featured his pickups on a couple of videos, PAF comparisons specifically, on my channel in the past. He sent me a few different sets to try out and include in the comparison, and they sound fantastic. So I will have it in the description for you guys to check out. Now, James did not ask me to do any of this. He just told me, hey, just being the nice gentleman he is, he's got some stuff he can send my way. But James is awesome. And then he also has a YouTube channel, which is super, super interesting and informative. And in that YouTube channel, he took the 400 volt 0.047 and tested it on a old Sprague machine, testing it for leakage as well as its power rating. I'm not really sure what to call it, but he ended up putting, I think, over 600 volts through it, and the cap was completely fine. It just shows how durable these are, and he did a video of that on his channel, so check that out. I'll put a link in the description to that as well. But yeah, thank you again, James. Really, really just appreciate your patience with me and just how kind and generous you've been. Thank you. So let's go ahead and grab the Vibrolux and knock out those 2 or 3 last little part swaps, and then I think we can finally put some voltage through it. Stoked. So we've got the Pro Reverb and the Vibrolux chassis here side by side. Kind of interesting to see how much bigger the Pro Reverb chassis is versus the Vibrolux. I actually didn't know they were bigger. It doesn't seem like there's a reason for that because they're essentially laid out identically. So not sure why that is, and I'm not sure if that is just on this 67, if an earlier blackface would be thinner. Either way, does not matter. Really what we're here today is to look at this part right here, this little silver mica, which we're going to be swapping this from the Pro Reverb over. And this would have been the correct part in this amp originally, so that's totally fine. And then we've got the 2 blue molded caps. So there is the 0.047. You can notice that this is the 400 volt, which is correct for this position, and this is the death cap, so you can see how much bigger it is. And then we've also got the 0.1, which would be going right here. And you can actually, well, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but the font is totally different on this versus this. So they did change the font. There's at least 2 or 3 variations of the font in the blue molded, but this one matches the caps already in the amp, so this will look perfect. So that's really the last of the things I need to do. So we'll again swap this out with this. and then this blue molded, and this blue molded, and then we can finally fire it up. So let's go ahead and get the soldering iron heated up and go for it. So there it is. I had a little bit of lift off there, but it's not the end of the world. Let's transition over to the Vibrolux. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and move this back over to the Pro Reverb. Let's go ahead and add solder. I'm going to try and do a dome. This will be my practice. Yeah, I need to add a lot more solder to do a dome, I think. With time I'll figure it out. Let's go ahead and clear out these eyelets here. So let's go ahead and solder that in. I really want to get a dome. I feel like I had some success in a couple other spots doing more of a dome. Like right here, for example. But I guess I lost the touch. Part of the issue might be too little solder, because this is fairly thin solder. Oh yeah, look at that. That worked way better. Let's try it on this side. Way better. Cool. Not as good of a dome on this side, but it's way harder to reach. But that looks great. That dome looks awesome. So that's done. What else can we do? I gotta swap these blue moldeds, but while I have this amp here, I'm gonna make sure there's nothing else that needs to be swapped over. Oh, that's right. There's one resistor on the, what is this? On the bass pot of the vibrato channel that was swapped on the Vibrolux, and I didn't notice it when I did my order. And instead of doing spending $10 on one resistor for shipping and all of that, I think what I'm going to do is just swap it off of this one. It's the same value. I already checked the values on them, but just to get that and take one of the original ones off of this, which should be basically identical. So we'll go ahead and remove it from this amp first. Another example of a very poorly installed resistor. Look at that, it's crazy. Like it's almost more work to have to deal with this crazy lead. So I don't really understand it, but anyways, we'll put that off to the side, swap it into the Pro Reverb, move that over here so I can reach it a bit easier. All right, there's a resistor that we'll be swapping on to the Vibrolux. So we'll put this back together as well. Super quick, I've got the Pro Reverb with the swapped transformer here. I just want to make sure everything's working before I put it away. Like I said, I'm probably going to go back and redo most of the stuff and really clean it up and give it a thorough once over. But just for now, before I put it off to the side, I want to make sure everything's working. So I've got my light bulb limiter here. Space is limited, so everything's a bit crammed. I got my Variac, and I did check with the multimeter to see how accurate this screen display is, and the voltage is basically exact to what my multimeter read. So I trust that. And then I've got it connected obviously to a cab off camera. So let's go ahead and power it on and see if everything is working okay. We'll see how high it has to get before the pilot light comes on. All right, the pilot light just came on about 80 volts. Now I hear noise coming out of the cab. Let's go ahead and turn the volume up. Great, so we got noise coming through. Let's just get it up to 120. Got a very dim glow on the bulb, which is what you want to see. And then just grab the guitar real quick. I guess you can't actually see the guitar. And obviously because of the current limiter, it's not actually getting the full voltage right now. So it's not completely indicative of what it would be like, but it does show it works, which is great. So now we can put this off to the side and then go back over to the Vibrolux. So we're back to the Vibrolux. Now we want to go ahead and install that resistor here on the base pot. So I'm going to try and clean the solder up a little bit and then grab that resistor, and hopefully it'll be a nice, easy fit. Nice. So the last thing we need to do now is just install those blue molded caps. Quickly, I'll show you. So this is the one I bought off eBay. And then this is the one that James gave me. So you can see how different they look. This is what all the caps look like in the amp versus this, which is different. Still a blue molded, but it's different. I don't know if it's just from a later year amplifier or what, but the font's different pretty obviously. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and put this one in now. All right, I think that's it. New 0.1 blue molded cap there. New 0.47, excuse me, blue molded cap there. New resistor on the base pot here. And then a new cap right here, replacing the silver mica with an original one. I think that's it. Just kind of running through everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed, but I don't think so, excuse me. Everything looks really good. So now, next step, I guess, it's getting pretty late now, but we can go ahead and at least get some tubes in it, turn it on, check some voltages, see what we're getting. And at least just do a preliminary test to make sure nothing catastrophic no catastrophic issues are present. And then from there, tomorrow, we can really dive into getting the bias set and really trying to get it perfectly adjusted, bring out the bias probe for the bias pot here and see how the tubes are matched. I got a few different sets of tubes I'll go over in that portion as well. So for now, though, I think let's just go ahead and put some voltage through it, run it with the current limiter, and just see if we're getting power at the various nodes, and check it with the multimeter versus what it says on the schematic. Sweet. All right, so we've got our variac here, we've got our light bulb current limiter, and I've got just the tubes that the amp came with in it just so we can turn it on. Unfortunately, I don't really have a good way to have the chassis sitting on my workbench with these tubes that are taller than the transformers. So I need to kind of mock something up or build something with some spare wood I have lying around, but that will have to be for another day. So just for right now, what we're going to do is just make sure it turns on. We get some noise out of it, make sure nothing, obviously if there's a catastrophic issue to where the light bulb, we have a dead short or something, then I'll just turn it all off and figure it out tomorrow. But for right now, I think what we'll do is just go ahead and turn it on, give it a little bit of voltage, see if the lamp comes on, and if we get any noise out of it. It's currently plugged into its cab, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. So fingers crossed everything goes smoothly. So I've got standby switch already off. Now I've got power on. So let's slowly raise the voltage. On the Pro Reverb, we tested the lamp came on at about 80 volts with the light bulb limiter on. So let's see what happens. Still no lamp on. So I've got 117 volts. Does not appear to be powering on right now. Let's bring this back down. All right, I'm going to try turning it on again, but I'm going to turn off my big light here so that I can see if any of the bulbs are, if the filaments are lighting at all, or if it's just getting no power. So it appears to be getting no power whatsoever. So at this point, I need to figure out how to flip the amp over and measure at the 3-prong to see if there's any power getting to the 3-prong, or maybe there's something wrong with that cable. So I've got the ground connected here. I want to be able to see if there's any voltage getting from power over. So just to confirm that the outlet I'm plugging into is working. 66 volts AC, which is exactly what the Variac is reading. So we know that's getting power through there. So then the hot wire here is going to this side of the fuse, which should give me the same, which it does. And then that should go to the switch, which also giving me 66 volts. So then if I turn it on, then the other side of the switch should also be giving me 66 volts, which it is. So it seems like it's getting power now. I do see the lamp is on. So I'm going to raise the voltage. We're up to 115 volts right now. The lamp is definitely on now. I don't hear anything, but I don't have anything plugged in. Let's see what happens if I plug in a cable. No sound. Let's bring the voltage back down. All right, it is now the next morning, and I just want to go ahead and check some voltages based off of what is on the schematic. So that's going to be the plan. And I'm just going to kind of quickly check the major ones that I can see based off the schematic and see what's what. So right now I've got it connected to the current limiter. I've got the multimeter here to be able to check things. It's connected to the chassis ground there, and then I've got a Variac off screen. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it to on. There are no tubes in it currently. And then we're going to slowly bring up the voltage. So we're up to 95 volts right now. I just want to see if this is also saying that. Or 99, excuse me. Yep, so that's also showing 99 volts. So we'll keep going up to 117, which is what's on the schematic. So the lamp is not on right now, which is weird because it was on last night. Nothing has moved or changed other than no tubes in it, so that's kind of odd. Let's see if we're getting any voltage to the heater. Doesn't look like it. It was just working last night. So I'm getting nothing. What are the odds that the power transformer just died? I didn't touch anything on the power transformer other than those 2 leads. No way, right? That would be so devastating. Yeah, it's not getting any voltage anywhere. I really hope that's not the case. It makes no sense. Nothing has changed. Oh, the light's on. The bulb is on now. The lamp, you guys can't see that, but the lamp is on now. That's so weird. So it just came on. So I wonder now if I'm getting any voltage on the heaters on the lamp. 3 volts. 3 volts. Suddenly it woke up. What the heck? So I'm checking on the rectifier tube connections straight off the power transformer right now. This is pin 7. no, sorry, pin 4. Showing 330 volts AC. This is pin 6. Same thing. This is pin 2. 5 volts AC. And basically nothing for pin 8. So it's showing negative bias. So pin 2, or it did. There we go. Pin 2 is 11, negative 11 volts DC. Pin 8, oops, is the same. Let's see if we're getting any. So we should be getting negative voltage here. Negative 16 volts at the bias pot. This should be negative 40 something, I think. Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off from here and do a little research.
One eternity later.
This video is an absolute cluster. I have no idea how I'm going to piece this together. Okay. So I'm not done troubleshooting this amp, but I did discover two things. And when I say I discovered, I mean I had the help of some extremely kind, patient people. I've got to give a shout out to James over at Rewind Electric. I've got to give a shout out to Matt, who comments on my YouTube channel, and we connected on Facebook. And then I've got to give a shout out to the guys over at, I believe the forum is called EL34 World. A particular gentleman over there, I think his username was Slucky, something like that. He was the one that actually found the issue. So I'm going to kind of explain to you guys real quick so you kind of know, because I recorded little bits and pieces along the way, but my camera can only record 30 minutes at a time, and I believe I filled 180 gigs worth of footage of me sitting here trying to troubleshoot it, and then it was recording, and then it would stop after 30 minutes. I want to catch it. So it's just a mess. I have no idea what you guys will have seen before this. Probably not much, but here's what I discovered. Well, I'll go through the issues and then what I discovered, and then / what people told me. So the first issue is when I turned the amp on originally, the lamp did not light. So I turned it on with the variac and the current limiter, and the lamp did not come on. And so that tells me that it wasn't getting power, or there's a problem with the power transformer. Well, suddenly the lamp turned on. And so I was extremely confused. And I could not get it to repeat exactly the same. Sometimes the lamp would come on immediately. Other times it would not come on for, say, a minute, and then suddenly just start coming on. And that was at a voltage high enough that would have turned the lamp on. So that was the first issue. The second issue is I tried it with tubes to start off, which was a mistake. But I honestly was so confident that I did, because I spent so much time. You guys got to see a lot of it, but there was so much time that you guys didn't see of me really methodically going through everything, resoldering every connection, making sure everything is as solid as possible. I came into this extremely confident of the work I did. And so I honestly genuinely thought it was just going to fire up and it was going to be good to go. Well, obviously I was wrong and got humbled extremely quick. And as I've said from the very get-go, guys, I am by no means an expert. You are literally watching me learn in real time. I'm not positioning myself as an expert. I am trying to figure this out. I want to get better at this, and I'm trying to learn. But the way I learn is by doing. So that's what I'm doing here. And then obviously I'm recording the journey with you all. So just to make that very clear. So I had tubes in it, and I was getting no sound output. So once it turned on, and then I was getting no output, and I was very confused on why that would happen. So pretty much immediately after that, I noticed that the tubes smelled like they were extremely hot. And I've smelt that before when I had an amp that had an issue where the bias was messed up. And I immediately knew, okay, I got to turn it off. and, see what's going on. So I checked the bias, took the tubes out, whatever, checked the bias circuit here, and this middle wiper should tell me what the bias is. And you guys can see I have it hooked up right now. Hopefully you can see that. And I'll put it over here. So everywhere it goes, reflections. Okay. But then you can't see the pot. This is not going well. The amp is live, so I want to be kind of careful here. There we go. Good enough. Okay. So, yeah, this middle wiper tells me what the voltage is. And here with the bias, you want to see negative voltage. And I was seeing negative voltage, but it was very, very low. It was reading, I believe, in the 9 to 11, negative 9 to negative 11 range, which is very wrong. The schematic says on it negative 42 volts DC. So I knew something was wrong. I went through and checked every single component of the bias circuit methodically. And I checked the voltage coming off of this red and blue wire here. I was told online that should be about 50 volts AC. It was 47, so that checks out. I checked the, see, it's a 470 ohm 1 watt resistor. That's original to the amp. It measures perfectly. I checked the diode. I had never checked a diode before. I didn't know how to do it. Again, the guys over at the forum I mentioned explained that to me. Very helpful, very much appreciative for them. Thank you guys. And lifted a leg, and that's original diode as well. Checked it, and it was fine. So everything seems fine. Obviously, the bias cap is extremely important, that the positive is going to ground. That was already good. I reflowed all the eyelets in the bias circuit to make sure that that's not an issue. I checked the ground connection to make sure there's continuity between the chassis and this eyelet. I checked there's a connection under this little board here between where the diode lead is, which you guys can't see, and this leg of the bias cap. And I checked for that. I desoldered. It's there. I checked continuity, the ohmage. There's nothing there. Everything here checked out perfectly. So was so confused. Then after that, I went over to the pot, obviously, because this is the last piece of the puzzle here. This resistor I swapped with a new old stock AB, and it measured 25K when the schematic calls for 27K. And this is a resistor you change to get the bias range, what you want. So 25K was totally fine as a starting point, and within spec. It's important to know also that on the Variac, the amp has been running at 117 volts, which is what it shows on the schematic. So I just wanted to kind of keep everything equal here. And there's no current limiter in the signal chain currently, because that will also affect it. So that read okay. So then the bias pot, it was actually going, sorry, let me clarify even further. The voltage, if I turn this right here, it'll change the bias. I can do that real quick to show. So right now it's at negative 43. I turn it, it'll go higher, or I guess lower, negative 57 there. So turning it, the lowest it would go is about negative 11 or so. The highest it would go is actually into positive. So that tells me there's something very wrong. It should not go positive. So one idea that we had, I say we, the collective hive mind helping me with this, was, well, what if the pot is dirty or has some issue? So we checked the resistance on the pot. It should be a 10K, or we connected actually to this end of the resistor and then over to this end of the pot to measure the resistance and run through the range of it. And it was exactly as you would expect. It was 37K, and that should be exactly what they are together, with the pot as a 10K and the resistor as 27K. So that all checked out perfectly. Then I cleaned out the pot with some deoxit to see if maybe there's some dirt or something that's causing some issues. So I did that, and I actually gained 10 volts or negative 10 volts when I did that. So suddenly it could get up to, at one point it was almost negative 20 volts DC on the pot, on this middle wiper, where I am currently. So that was great. But then I noticed it was actually slowly declining. So there was, declining, raising. It's a little confusing because of negative numbers. It was raising, so it was actually going from -20 and then it went down to -17 or up to -17 and so on and so forth. So something was obviously adding positive voltage and causing the negative voltage, the negative bias, to get messed up. So that's where I was just totally lost and stuck. There's something. So I deconnected this lead right here on the middle pot, the middle wiper of the pot, to separate everything from the negative bias circuit, which basically is just this, the cap, the resistor, the diode, and the pot and the resistor here. This is what connects it to the board, which connects it to everything else in the amp. So I did that, and then I saw a post on. In fact, I don't want to butcher his name because he deserves all the credit here. Let me pull his name up. Okay, so the forum is EL34 World. So if you guys are interested in anything amp tech related, go there. And here's the gentleman. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but Slucky is his name, Sluckey. He is an absolute legend. So kind and patient. Thank you again, sir. Man, if you're ever in Southern California, let me buy you a beer. So yeah, he noted that he actually took a photo, because I took photos of the chassis and sent it to him, and he noted that one of the wires was in the wrong spot. So let's look at where that is. Right here. This lovely little brown wire. It's connected right here to these two resistors. This is a 100K and then a 82K. It's there right now because I moved it there, and you guys can see that I am now getting correct negative voltage, or it's in the range. I haven't checked yet to bias it with the power tubes in it, with all the tubes in it, but at least we're in the range now. So roughly, we might have to change this resistor eventually, but we'll get there. So I actually had this lead, this brown lead, which according to the schematic should have plus 310 volts DC on it. And I had it connected to the eyelet right above it, which you guys probably won't be able to see, but it's right here where the two 220K resistors are like a V. So, yeah, just so stupid of me. I have no idea how I did that. So basically, as I understand it, that is, let me make sure I have this correctly. So that is the phase inverter plates connected to the bias. So this right here wire would be the plate voltage for the phase inverter tube, which would be right here, the 12AT7. And I had that wire that's supposed to feed that voltage going to the negative bias circuit. So that's what was just throwing it completely off and causing all of those issues. So yeah, that seems to have fixed the problem, by at least the bias circuit problem. This switch definitely still needs to be replaced, which is not a huge deal. They go out eventually. It seems to work every once in a while. It always works, but it seems to take a while. So, but it's working right now. So that definitely will need to be replaced. And I might even replace the standby as well while I'm at it. TBD on that. Actually, what I could do, no, I can't do that. Never mind. So there you go, guys. That is the update with the amp. So from here, I'm going to check some more voltages. I'm not going to bore you guys with that. And then if everything looks okay, we can go ahead and start putting tubes in it and see if we get any sound through it. But there's the rundown of my stupidity. I'm not sure how I messed that up. You know, this area right here. Yeah, I guess it's an easy mistake to make because eyelets are right next to each other. And it's just a wire that I had to undo to change those resistors. So listen, things happen. I'm a complete beginner at this stuff. The amount of things I did for the first time with this amp is incredible. I've never worked on a vintage Fender like this before. I've never replaced so many resistors. I've never done all these different types of caps before. Certainly never done a swap there. Yeah, lots of new ground for me. But hey, that's what it's all about. That's how you learn. That's how I learn, at least. So I'm feeling much happier though. I honestly thought the power transformer had died. I thought that was dead because of this intermittent issue, and I just was like, what are the odds? I get an output transformer that's matching date codes, and everything's perfect, and the power transformer goes out. Oh gosh, that would have been so bad, so depressing. But that's not the case. Everything seems to be healthy now. So there we go. That's where we're at. Oh, the joys.